Hello, and welcome to the second part of the teaching unit on psychological mental skill training. Now I will provide you some example on the strategies and techniques to improve mental skill training, such as attention and concentration and arousal regulation. My name is Marika Berchicci, and I'm associate professor at the University of Chieti Pescara in Italy. And today I will tell you something about attention and concentration. Basically, we should start with the definition of them, even though it is a bit misleading because we tend to overlap their definitions. Basically, concentration can be defined as the process of selecting from multiple sources of information those most relevant to some goal, and of managing the interference from non-selected sources. We have two keywords here. One is the goal and the other is the interference. It is a personal ability to exert deliberate effort. This is why we need a goal, we need an aim, otherwise it will be impossible to exert in a deliberate way some effort, and also to maintain the focus on the relevant environmental cues in a given situation and in a given time window. Attention is a process of focusing, again, mental effort on both events can be internal or external, so sensory or mental, to increase the elaboration and the perception. Of course, attention is very limited in its capacity. The taxonomy of attention is really wide. We can start talking about attentional selectivity, capacity, and alertness, because they are more essential for sport and exercise performance. Attentional selectivity, to begin, refers to letting some information into processing system while other information is screened or ignored. There are common attentional selectivity errors. For example, being too broad in one's focus. We will talk about the attentional focuses, making a reference to the Nideffer model. Or being distracted by irrelevant information. We will see that there are internal and external distractors, or the inability to shift the focus rapidly. And this is something that sometimes it is required by the task. The attentional capacity is the amount of information that can be processed at one time. It is limited. That's the capacity, the definition of attention. We can divide controlled and automatic processing. The controlled processing is a mental processing that involves conscious attention and awareness of what we are doing when we perform a specific sport skill. The automatic processing instead is a mental processing that does not require conscious attention. And athletes can change from control to automatic processes as they become more proficient. And attentional capacity is often compromised by having to perform, for example, a cognitive secondary task before the primary task. And this, of course, support the limited capacity of attention. Alertness is defined as a state of sustained attention and being quick to perceive and act. In sport, for example, athletes describe the feeling of being in the zone, which can be referred to be in a state of sustained alertness over a given time of period. An example of alert deficit is the losing of sensitivity to cues in the peripheral visual field with increased emotional arousal. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the attentional focus because we already mentioned this idea. Basically, the Neideffer suggested that we can divide the attentional focuses in two components, the width and the direction. The width, again, in broad, narrow attentional focuses, and the direction, internal versus external attentional focus. Let's make some example about that. If we refer to the broad external attentional focus, we refer to the rapidly assessment of a situation. For example, a football player that rapidly assess the position of the defensive player. To catch the ball. Broad internal attentional focus is used to analyze, to plan, to problem solving, to determine strategy. And for example, as you can see here, it is the development of a game strategy during the break. If we move to the narrow domain, we have the narrow external, which is the use of the focus on a few specific external cues. For example, here we see a basketball players during a free shot. Again, the narrow internal attentional focuses are used to mentally rehearse an upcoming performance or to control the emotional state. In this case, a golfer might focus on getting his putt past the hole. Within the demanding context of a competitive sport, for example, pleasant emotions have been associated with a broader focus of attention. Well, we have a concentration component and we can try to make training on specific components. We will see some of them, for example, focusing on relevant environmental cues, which is selective attention. We select what cues to attend and the other to disregard. An external focus of attention has been found to be beneficial to performance in a variety of tasks, such as those that focus on balance, accuracy, speed, endurance, maximal force production. So an external focus results in increase in performance outcomes in movement efficiency and movement kinematics. So if the effectiveness of an external focus generalizes across many situations and skill levels, then teachers and coaches should teach athletes how to focus externally. Then we have the maintaining of attentional focus for the duration of the competition or the performance, which is part of the concentration. And this is difficult because on average, people engage in about 4,000 thoughts in a 16-hour day. The situation awareness, which is the ability to understand what is going on around ourselves. The situational awareness is the ability that allow players to size up a game situation, opponents, and competitions in order to make appropriate decisions based on the situation, and often under acute pressure and time demands, and expert and novices differ in their attentional processing. The shifting of attentional focus when necessarily, we say that is a common error, and this is attentional flexibility, and is known as the ability to alter the scope and the focus of attention as demanded by the situation. For example, before shooting, a golfer uses a broad external focus to assess factors such as the wind, the length of the fairway, chaps. After appraising the situation, they shift to a broad internal focus to record similar shots. During the pre-shot routine, when they monitor their tension level in the breathing, they can have a narrow internal focus. Finally, when they use a narrow internal focus, they use a narrow external focus when addressing the ball. So this is another point of view of the Neidefert model. Of course, we have differences between expert and novices. For example, expert players attend more to advanced information, to movement patterns of their opponents, search more systematically for cues than do novices. Still, we have a lot of differences. Basically focus on the relevant cues only in the athletic environment, and to eliminate distraction is important for optimal performance. And that means that you have to avoid distraction. As we said, there are internal and external distractors. Let's start from the external one, which are the stimuli from the environment that divert people's attention from the cues relevant for their performance. They can be visual, for example, spectators, or auditory, the loud or unexpected noises, or low motivation. What about the internal? The internal, for example, choking under pressure, overanalysis of body mechanics, fatigue, again motivation, or attending to past or future events. We will briefly describe the first two, choking under pressure and overanalysis of the body. Choking is an attentional process that leads to impaired performance and the inability to retain control over performance. Which are the conditions leading to choking? There are different: competition, critical place, devaluation. They lead to both physical and attentional changes. Physical: increased muscular tension, breathing rate, heart rate, and attentional. There's a change in the focus of attention, internal, narrow, but also reduced flexibility. And both of them together impair performance. Okay, and this is really important. There are interventions that can help alleviate choking under pressure. For example, pre-shot routines, quite high training, left-hand contradictions, and so on. Again, once a skill is well learned, an overemphasis on body mechanics is detrimental to performance, and according to conscious processing hypothesis, choking occurs when skill performance focus too much on their task and the muscle and their body movements. There are different ways to measure concentration. Among the questionnaires we can mention the sport anxiety scale, in particular the concentration disruption subscale, and which is an assessment of the participants' experience of concentration disruption, and the sports improvement measurement that can be used to monitor sports improvement, and it is specifically designed for athletes. Among the interventions, we can mention the mindfulness, which is quite different from meditation, and has a positive influence on a variety of behaviors, and because it reduces anxiety, enhances quality of life, improves attentional focus, of course, because we are mentioning some intervention that can help with attention. Among this class of intervention, we have the mindfulness acceptance commitment therapy or training, also known as MEC. This is specifically developed to enhance attention and concentration, to enhance the present moment awareness and increase acceptance and tolerance of the fluctuations of thoughts, emotion, and sensation to promote well-being. And all these aims are achieved by meeting with athletes in which they learn to meditate and to engage in exercises that are intended to enhance acceptance of the internal experiences and commit with this kind of behavior. Of course, there are other interventions like mental coaching programs together with bio-neurofeedback training or sleep hygiene. Here, as you can see, there are some self-evaluating questions for you, and this is a list of suggested readings. I hope that you enjoy this part and have fun with the second part. Thank you for attending me.
Hello everyone, my name is Claudio Robazza from the University of Chieti, Pescara, Italy, and these are the contents of this presentation. We are going to start with the definition of arousal, then we will discuss the arousal-performance relationship, and finally some techniques for arousal regulation. Arousal is commonly defined as a combination of a general physiological and psychological activation of the organism, which varies on a continuum from deep sleep to intense excitement. Arousal involves activation of the reticular activating system in the brain stem, the autonomic nervous system, and the endocrine system. This activation leads to condition of sensory alertness, mobility, and readiness to respond. Arousal is important in regulating a range of functions, for example, consciousness, attention, alertness, informational processing, emotions, and so on. And these functions are optimal when the level of arousal is moderate. The same functions are impaired when the arousal level is either too low or too high. In particular, the relationship between arousal and performance is often represented graphically as an inverted U, the so-called inverted U hypothesis. Optimal performance occurs when the arousal level is intermediate. On the other hand, performance decreases when the arousal level is too low or too high. This relationship varies according to the complexity of the skill. Skills involving movement coordination and decision making require relatively low levels of arousal, while simple motor skills require high levels of arousal. Another factor to consider is the difference in individual skills and abilities. Fine motor skills, such as shooting and archery, are performed optimally when arousal is relatively low, while tasks such as sprinting and weightlifting, that involve power, strength, speed, and endurance, are performed optimally in a relatively high arousal condition. Finally, novice individuals perform better in a relatively low arousal condition, while more experienced individuals perform better in a higher arousal state. Although arousal is a neutral state of the organism, it is easily associated with emotions. In particular, debilitative anxiety and other dysfunctional emotional states are often accompanied by increased arousal and a range of related responses of the autonomic and nervous system, such as increased heart and respiration rates, butterfly in the stomach, muscle tension, sweating, perceptual narrowing, and so on. Therefore, to regulate arousal and the related anxiety and other emotional reactions, athletes can use somatic strategies and cognitive strategies, and also a combination of the two. Somatic strategies involve breathing and muscle tension or relaxation. Example of psyching down techniques are deep and slow diaphragmatic breathing, muscle relaxation, and slow movements. On the other hand, examples of psyching up techniques are thoracic breathing, muscle tension, and executing rapid movements. Cognitive strategies include self-talk, imagery, and psyching up or psyching down behaviors, such as the use of pre-performance routines and the use of either relaxing or energizing music, depending on whether the athlete needs to reduce or increase the level of arousal. Techniques often used for arousal regulation are active tension relaxation of muscles, passive muscle tension and relaxation by mentally representing the tension and the relaxation of the muscles, and body scan. An excellent example of body scan exercise for relaxation purposes has been provided by John Kabat-Zinn and can be found at this link. Thank you for your attention.